On this episode of AV Week, what AV pros need to know about the AV over IP market getting back into the house of worship safely, and Exertis rebrands globally. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 477, recorded Friday, October 9th, 2020. Monitor and manage.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sure, sound extraordinary.
And by Crestron.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Corey Schaefer from QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, good to be here again on the old AV Nation.
Yeah, and if you're not watching the video, Corey has a brand spanking new QSC background. So yeah, absolutely, that's fancy. Somebody helped you. That's fancy. Yeah, I need to get somebody. The other fake background, I'm going to save Giovanni because he's the only one with the real one. David Silverstein from D10. It's overlooking Central Park.
Little Central Park shot because why not? Looked pretty cool.
All right, and I mentioned, last but not least, Giovanni Agramonte from Art Media, who has a real background of his real backyard. So how are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely. So let's kick this off with our first story. It comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. Exertis has Stampede, which is a distributor here in the States, was purchased by Exertis a number of years ago. Exertis, though, is coming out and they're rolling out as Exertis globally. What that means is that anybody that they owned, whether that was in Australia, whether that was in the UK, or obviously here in the States, they're going to be all known as Exertis here. Agamani, I'm going to start with you on this. When it comes to talking about or dealing with any company, whether it's a distributor, whether it's a manufacturer, what have you, does the name change really impact who you deal with on a day-to-day basis, or is it from your standpoint, it's just a name change regardless, and we just kind of go on doing business with just a different name?
I think it depends on how the staff assimilates the name change. Some people may fall in love with a particular brand, and it'll be more challenging for them to make the transition, because also with the name change, you could also have cultural change within the operations of the company. So it all depends on how the name change is implemented, how it's shared with the people who are being absorbed, and how they're coached as to what's about to happen with them in their position. Because people often get worried when a name change happens. The first thing they think about is my job on the line? So it all depends on how.
I'm going to jump in and just say, I think branding, what I see happening with them is it's the branding. They've done these acquisitions, and so now they're trying to come together as one cohesive brand. And I think branding is more than a name change, and that's what I read into it. It's not just a name change. It's making sure that values are aligned, the culture of the organization is aligned, how they service customers, et cetera, is aligned. I mean, hopefully, as they do branding. Name changing is really, when you do a name change or a brand change, it's difficult if you're not thinking of it all the way through. And I'm just going to throw one out there that happened, well over a year ago. And I question how effective it is, and it's Poly, right? Because every single time I see communication from Poly, it has in parentheses, former Plantronics Polycom, so I'm wondering, why do they have to keep explaining that, and so I kind of question, when you do a brand change, how long do you have to kind of carry the legacy, the heritage along with you, and there needs to be a full brand initiative and not just a name change.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally have to agree with that. Let me, in this particular case, I think the change was well warranted because in today's world, our customers operate throughout the world, which means our dealerships operate throughout the world. So what we're talking about is now a global distributor where I know that my European office is going to buy from the same entity that buys from the US, that buys from Asia Pac, right? So for that reason, I think it was a brilliant idea to do the name change and make everything consistent for people.
Yeah.
It's just a lot easier to handle, right? A name change, why Poly changed their name, for example, that's more just a name change. This was very strategic. It's branding, it's identification, and it's to support the worldwide dealer base that's now out there with so many people operating in so many other countries.
Well, hang on for a second though, David, because the Poly's name change wasn't just a name change. They got purchased by Plantronics.
Yeah, right.
They got purchased by Plantronics, and that was, this is my 2 cents and my opinion only. It was Plantronics trying to make sure that the pro AV and the UC space didn't think that Plantronics was doing away with Polycom, right? So, because if you I mean, Plantronics is the older of the two companies. They've been around since the late 50s, early 60s, and they've got technically a longer track record, especially in the headsets and communications, telecommunications market. So that one was curious, has been curious to me for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that was more, kind of aligning, I guess, or bringing two companies together. I don't know. That one was,
It's still curious to me a little bit.
It is.
There's an old adage that when two companies merge or come together, in the background, the winner is decided by who stays as CEO between the two companies, who keeps the name between the two companies, and who keeps the headquarters location between the two companies.
Well, if that's the thing, then I would say everything but the name is Plantronics, right?
Exactly.
That's who won that.
Yep.
But the name still, was,
yeah, right.
That is interesting. Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.